So welcome back to part 2 of the free step-by-step tutorial using the Stamperia Dream paper pad by Valeri at J&S Hobbies and Crafts. Let's get continuing on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and throw away the pieces that I cut off. Get my cocoa ink out and ink my sides. I'm getting the hang of this, everybody. I don't know if you'll notice this, but there's cocoa ink on the paper already, so it matches. Isn't that cool? Alright, I like how it looks like it's kind of been antiqued and burned. Alright, so we are going to measure this, leaving a 1/16 of an inch in the upper right corner. Okay, so 1/16 of an inch here, 1/16 of an inch here. This is not an even sided piece of paper, believe me. Okay, so I want you to measure a 1/16 of an inch off of here and a 1/16 of an inch over there, and get out your scoreboard. So what we're doing is we're going to score down this line that we made. So measure, put it up against any score line, doesn't matter, whatever score number, just score down where you put that little pencil mark, turn it, put this other little pencil mark up against any score line, score. Make sure that when you put this back on, you have the same amount of space between your scores and your edges, and I do. Put your scoreboard away. Go ahead and get your scissors out, and I want you to cut this corner out, right up this score to that line, and this score to that line, okay? So you can cut that little square out, and you can throw that away. Go ahead and fold, and fold. Now we can go ahead and glue this on. Do not glue it upside down. Rows in the top left corner. Get out the piece that we just cut. Another little secret that might make this easier is that you can actually take and cut that corner, and that way when we fold these under, they won't actually have any black. So if you take it and cut the corners like that, this will make it easier to fold under. Alright, so take this piece and keep the pretties in the left corner. Tuck this one over here. Fold it so it's stuck right in the corner, okay? Pinch it all the way down into the corner, turn it over, and we're going to glue it down. So make sure it's up snug against the corner. Turn. See? Now we don't have to worry about those fitting over there. That's going to fit on there nicely. Let's go ahead and glue this down to the underside of the Beatrice. See, this is the one that has a Beatrice at the top, the hinge at the bottom facing up. Make sure that it's centered and it doesn't go over your hinge at the bottom. Get out your page 3. Bring this over. Make sure that all of your score mark hinges or hinge marks are on one side, none on this side. Butt this right up against the top and center. Okay, get it up there, push it up there tight, pinch, turn it over, and glue it down. Push your spine back up. In your reserve, you should have this. This came from when we did our first page. It says a kiss to build a dream on. I want you to go ahead and fussy cut around the edges. And again, this is not straight, so it's your preference. If you want to cut it off straight, you can. But I like these little raw edges, so I'm going to cut around the edges and I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw this away. And get out my cocoa. And go around the edges. That away. In your stockpile, you should have a piece of cardstock, 5 1/8 by 8 1/2. I'm going to take this piece at the portrait, measure over 4 1/2 inches, and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. Go ahead and put this small piece in your stockpile, and this is going to become a pocket. We're going to go ahead and put a piece of score tape along the bottom of the page. right down here. Don't go over the edges. Make sure it's down tight and take the backing off of the score tape. A little natural bend it has itself. Place it evenly side to side right across the bottom, and then go ahead and fold over your edges. Now this cardstock is always a little bit harder because it's really, really thick to bend and fold. And glue it down. Okay, flip it back over. Now this piece is going to go on here, but I have obviously a larger border on both sides. So I want you to go out and get your little flat Rochelle lace. So I'm going to turn this sideways. It'll make it just a little bit easier for me to measure. So I'm going to measure my lace. Cut 2 pieces, the size of the length of the side. So the other side. Now I'm particular about my lace, so I'm going to make sure that the full side piece, this is cut 3/4 off. I'm going to make sure that the side that has the whole piece is at the top. Go ahead and throw that on there, right up against the edge, so that the lace goes right up against the black edge. Okay, on the other side, same thing, piece right up against the edge. I'm going to go get the piece that I cut earlier and inked, glue it up. So I decided to run another piece of lace across the top and then lay that down. So I apologize. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and get out your Jolie pearl and gem clusters. And we're going to take one of these ones. I'm going to place it right in the center. Take one of each of these. These match. And I'm going to place one right there. I'm going to place one right there. So I've decided to take some of my bouquet, my Tim Holtz bouquet, and I'm just going to glue them next to these little white pearls. I should zoom in. Sorry. You know, this makes it easier. So I'm going to take my first flower, and I'm just going to place a little flower right next to my pearl. Kind of using my pearl as a centerpiece. So I'm kind of just placing these around the pearl like that. And I'm going to do it to the other pearl as well. Here we go. Now, one last thing. I'm going to cut this out. It says Dream Big. Just fussy cut around it. Remember, we're going to be using our pigments, so if you don't get it perfect, cover it up with pigments. I'm going to throw away this. Get out my cocoa. Ink around my edges. Get some glue. And I'm just going to place it right there. And I decided to grab one of the little Designs by Shellie, the littlest butterfly. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it down right there. Add a little stickles, diamond stickles, and let it dry. We can start page 4 and glue this in after it dries. Okay, stickles to my butterflies, some stickles to my flowers, and we gotta let this dry before we can put it in. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and place this one in. Get it evenly all the way around the sides. Stay away from your fold on the right hand side. Make sure it's down nice and snug. All right, page 3 is done. Let's move on to page 4. Okay, so we are ready to start page 4. I would like for you to go and get 2 pieces of your black cardstock, and we are going to cut 4 pieces of cardstock that are 4 3/8 by 7. I'm going to cut the long strip off the top first, so I'm gonna measure over 7 inches this way and cut on both of them first, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've measured over 7 inches on both of these, and this is what I'm going to be putting in my stockpile. Now I'm going to turn them both this way, measure over 4 3/8 and cut both pieces. Okay, so this is what you should have, 4 3/8 by 7 times 2. Take these two again, measure over 4 3/8 on both of these and cut. This is what you should have. These two pieces are going to go in your stockpile. So now you should have 4 exact pieces that are 4 3/8 by 7, okay? Let's get out our scoreboard. Having these in the portrait at the 4 3/4 cross, I would like for you to score each one at 4 inches. Okay, score all 4 at 4 inches. I'm going to set these aside for just a moment. I would like for you to get out your Heidi Swap journaling pad, and out of it, I want you to take these 4 pieces. Actually, take 2 of the ones with the roses. Okay, one has polka dots. One is kind of a peach that matches our paper, and we have the teal one with the oval on it. I want you to go ahead and remove the top tabs. Now, I prefer to cut mine because if you don't, then you're going to have this weird little ridge. So I just want you to cut just below the little perforated line. If you just want to take off the perforation, that's fine too, but I don't like this little, this is what I cut off, like literally the perforation. I've measured these, so I don't want you to cut more than like that much off, okay? Okay, so this is what you should have. I want you to take one of the ones with the roses and just set it aside for now with your page 4 back paper. Get out your cocoa and let's go ahead and ink our sides. And like watching my glue dry, I don't think you need to watch me ink all 4 of these, but just go ahead and ink around the edges of all 4 of these on the sides that are showing you, that I'm showing you currently. Bring out the 4 sheets, the 4 cardstocks that we have scored. So make sure that all 4 of your cardstocks have the fold on the left and down. Go ahead and take one. Set these ones aside. Take your oval turquoise, and I'm going to place it so that the smaller piece is at the top. I don't know if you'll notice there's a bigger piece here and a smaller piece. You know, we're going to glue this on the front. Again, hinge left, back. And this can actually have a picture in it, or you could journal in it. I think it'd be really cute to cut a picture out and put it right in it. So go ahead and get your glue out, and let's get ready to cover up our cardstock pieces. Go ahead and put glue on the back of your first sheet. Place it down evenly. Now this is going to have a little bit bigger black border than you're used to me using. Went out of my box, but I wanted the black to show on this one a little bit more. So the next one I want you to do is the one with the polka dots. Be sure that the polka dots are on the right. Again, make sure that your cardstock has the hinge on the left and it's going down. Next one will be the one that says remember. And I actually want you to do this. I want you to go ahead and turn this over, hinge on the right-hand side, facing up, and place this one inside like that. Okay, so this one is on, hinge on the right, facing up. And the last one is the rose, and it's going to go on top. Okay, hinge on the left, facing down. Okay, we're just set those aside for just a minute because we need to put paper on the back of each of them. Well, the front of one and the rear of the back of them. In your paper pad, I want you to find this. It has little lines along the side, which by the way are going to match the lines on our paper we just put on. It also has polka dots, and on the other side it looks like this. So We are going to cover the backs of these, leaving the same distance. Let's go ahead and measure over 6 3/4 and cut. This is what you should have. I'm going to take the shorter one and just set it aside for a moment. Turn this way. So you're measuring over 3 3/4 and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and set this one aside. Measure over 3 3/4 and cut. This is the last piece that you should have. Go ahead and we're going to turn it over. Measure over 3 3/4 and cut. This is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and put this small piece in my reserve pile. So this is the 3 pieces we have, okay? Now we need one more. So we're going to get this piece that I had you set aside. And on the other side, it looks like this. We're going to go ahead and turn it this way. Measure over 6 3/4 and cut. Put the square piece in your reserve pile. Turn it this way, so you have lines on the top. Measure over 3 3/4 and cut. This is what you should have. This goes in your reserve. And we have our 4 backs to put on the other side of our flips. I'm going to start with the green one with the oval on it. And on the back of this one, I'm going to use this one that has the little peach kind of almost look like ink stains. We're going to ink these first. So ink all 4 of these pieces. So we could start with this one that we're going to put on the back. Take your oval, these out of your way for a second. Turn it over so the hinge is on the right and it's up. I'm going to have the little lines on the left and the bottom. I love when you turn your paper over and you're pleasantly surprised at what's on the back, because this actually happens to match perfectly. So if you notice, we have peach dot polka dots that are going to go next to this, and there's peach on here, so this is actually so perfect. So this one is covered. Okay, set that one aside. You're going to get your peach one out, turn it over. We're going to use this one on the back, so this is one with the little pretty cover, pretty colors. Ink it. This time I'm going to have lines across the top and along the left. Turn it over. Just glue it down. Make sure when you're gluing it down that you're keeping an even border, and remember not to go over your fold, okay? It's very important. Set that one aside. This is going to be the peach one. Hinge on the left. Set it over here for a second. Let's get out this piece with the polka dots. Ink it up. I'm going to have the little lines at the bottom. Go ahead and put your glue on. This is the back of the peach. Hinge on the left facing down. And last but not least, we're going to ink the last piece. It is going to be this side. Let's do this side. Why not? I think that'll match better because it's going to be facing our back. So go ahead and ink. Bring out your last one that has the rose on one side. Hinge on the right facing up. Glue on the back. Lines on the top, lines on the left. Even all the way around. All right. This last rose that we had saved, I'd like for you to go ahead and cut around it. And we'll be right back. I am going to get inside the little areas that have the white because the back of our paper is not white. The white will really, really, really show if you don't get it out of there. All right, I think I did a pretty good job. I am going to take my ink. Okay, be right back. I am not going to go crazy about the edges. I'm just going to get rid of some of the white edges. And if I didn't fussy cut perfectly, this is a perfect time to kind of get some of that little white around like my leaves that I didn't get. So sometimes inking can get rid of your little, just a teeny bit. I'm not going crazy, okay? I don't want my leaves to turn brown. I don't want my roses to be brown. I just want it to match the paper pad that we're putting it on. Go ahead and get out your page 4 backing. So I'm going to just glue this flower into the top right corner right here. I haven't fussy cut in a while, so I was kind of excited about it. Setting it in the upper right hand corner, right up against the edges, like that. And I want you to get your ruler out, and you're going to measure a 1/2 inch away from the edge. I already did mine so you can actually see my lines. So I made lines, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And each of the lines are 7 inches long because guess what? So are these. Okay, so I measured 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch in this way, made a line, made a line, made a line. Okay, the hidden hinge system, we've done this before. So we are going to be cutting right along that line. I'm using the rules that are on here, the guides. I'm going to take my ruler, take my craft knife, and I'm going to cut down that line. Do not cut further than the 7 inches and keep it straight. I rather cut short the first time than cut too long. All right, so, and this paper is not really heavy, so it should cut through the first time. Now, to make sure that you cut it right, take one of your hinge pieces. Like again, I said this is not the one that's going in, but I'm just using it as a guide. Now, I didn't go far enough, so I'm going to take it down a little further. And I want it to go in evenly. There you go. So we are going to score tape these down, but you will see that once you get it on there, you will have a hidden hinge so that when we open it, you will not see the black hinge. Okay? So now I want you to go ahead and cut the other 2 lines. You have a total of 3 cuts that you're making. I'm going to go ahead and line mine up again. If it makes it easier for you, by the way, you can make a line this way at the end of each of your lines. Then you know where to stop, because once you have your ruler right on your line, it really makes it a little bit harder to see. Let's cut our second one. Make sure that one of them fits inside. Got it in there, yay! And we'll go ahead and cut our third one and put our hinge system together, okay? Okay, so once you have them all cut and you've tested to see that they're working, I'm just gonna lightly erase my pencil line. Now let's go ahead and take our 4 hinged pieces and we're going to turn them over, and you're going to put score tape on peak is here, hinge is on the right, and it's folded up. You're going to put a piece of score tape just to the right hand side of the score fold. Do not go over the fold, okay? And if you go over the edge, you need to clip it off. So on all 4, I'm on the right hand side of the score line. Hinge is pointing up, and I'm staying closer to my score line if I can. It is not going to cover the whole thing, but we can always put a little bit of glue if you want to along the edge. It will be underneath and adhered to the page later, so if you get anything over the edges, make sure you take it off. Go ahead and make sure that your score tape is down nice and snug. First one I'm getting out is the one with the rose. I'm going to take the backing off my score tape. Be careful when you place it in that you don't stick it to your page. Stick it in the far right opening. Again, be very careful that your score tape doesn't get stuck. In fact, on the next one, we won't take our score tape off till we get to the back. Yeah, I shouldn't have done it that way. We're going to take the score tape off secondary next time, okay? Get it right up against the edge. Okay. Now I have it turned over. My backing is pushed right up against the fold. Looks like that on the front. Okay, looks like that on the back. I'm just going to fold it over and press it down. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one we'll take the score tape off after we put it through. Next one, polka dotted one, peach on the other side. Let's stick it in first. All right, take the backing off your score tape. Make sure that your paper is right up against your fold, right up against it. Fold it over. Place it down. Now these are going to be weird. They're going to pop up I'm just going back over and pushing the paper to the back. The next one, the one with the polka dots. Place it in. Pull the fold all the way up. Make sure it's in there. Pull the score tape off the back. Make sure my paper's right up against the crease, the fold. Now, these should all be even on top of each other. So far, so good. See that? Now the last one, pushing my paper back, be sure not to tear it. Be really careful when you push it back. So on the last one, I want you to push it up against the side. Make sure it's flush here to here, okay? Pinch. Turn it over, make sure it's right up against the fold. Pull the score tape off. And we could have used hot glue, but this is such a tiny little spine. So make sure it's right up against the edge. Fold it over. Now it's going to buckle a little because it's really heavy. But once we get the score tape on the back of this and we put it down into the page, it will be perfectly fine. Set this aside. In your stockpile, you should have a piece of cardstock that I think we just cut off recently. So obviously it's 11 inches by 1.5. Measure over 5 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have. This is the one that's 5 1/4. Set it just aside for just a second. This is the one we cut off. I want you to go ahead and measure over 4.5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. I'm going to put this little piece in my stockpile. So let's go ahead and get our scoreboard out. Okay, so on your scoreboard, this is the longer piece. This is the 5 1/4 inch piece, okay? I want you to score at 1 inch and 1 1/4, okay? On the 4-inch piece, I want you to score at 1 inch and 1 1/4. Let's go ahead and fold. So this is what you should have. I have an M there for magnet, and I have an M there for magnet. So guess what? We're gonna get some magnets out. Might as well get them out now. I'm gonna go ahead and get my score tape. A little tiny piece of score tape on the bottom of the first one. And I'm gonna keep another little piece of score tape. My craft knife, take off the backing of this little teeny tiny piece of score tape. Okay. And I'm gonna place it right on there, okay? And let me show you what I'm doing. Match the magnet, take another little piece of score tape, grab your page. This is the left, the longer one is the left side. We're not doing anything yet, we're just setting it on there, okay? So these are gonna go on top of each other. I want you to make sure that you have your folds so that you have a spine, okay? It's really important that the spine, okay, look, I want you to look here. This is the first fold and that's the second fold. Make sure that the paper is lined up against the first fold, okay? But that your spine is flat. Same with the other side. Make sure that the spine is flat. We haven't got it connected yet, but we will in a minute, okay? This is the hardest part. We got to get those magnets to line up perfectly. So keep your paper flat, and we're going to line them up. So when we take that score tape off the other piece, we can just go boop and press it down, okay? So I'm just going to peel this open. I'm holding this down with my finger. Take that score tape off. Hopefully that magnet will hold on. Oh, look at that. Okay. So now line these up perfectly. Press. Look at that. See? Okay. That was something new I learned online. Alright, so set this aside for just a second. We've got these two pieces. Okay, in your reserve, you should have this piece. We just cut it off earlier. And you also should have a piece of this. Okay, so first start with the top. So I'm starting with the longer one with the magnet on the top. And I want this lineage to be on the right. Go ahead and set it on top. Leave your border all the way around. Measure. Now make sure you cut this piece off first. I'll be right back. So I cut the bigger piece off first. That's going to go on this one. Now go ahead and cut the side off. All right, that's what I cut off. I'm not keeping that. And double check to make sure this fits on here. And it does. So I'm going to set it there for just a second. This is my shorter one. Okay, it's going to have a little bit bigger border in the front and the back. It is just shy, okay, as you can see, it is just shy. I'm actually, because of the bigger borders that are on this, and this is the top piece, I'm going to go ahead and leave the borders to match the side of these and leave a little extra. So go ahead and just measure one side and cut that off. Okay, before we put this down, let's go ahead and do our pigments, okay? So both pieces are inked. Now I'm going to put glue on the longer one. And I'm putting the pretty little print to the left. Putting it on there with the same border all the way around. Set that one aside. I'll fold this all the way under so you can see what I'm doing. A little glue. I would like the lines to be on the left. Now this one's going to have a little bit bigger border on the left and the right that will match the border that's on here. This is the one that's going on top. So your magnets should hold, okay? Go ahead and get out this green piece that we set aside for here, and let's get that measured. I'm going to do my longer one first. Remember, you're not going over your folds. Go ahead and measure this with the same border as you have on the front. I'm going to go ahead and cut all this stuff off first and then cut across there. Just to show you I'm cutting this stuff off. I'm going to throw this away. Okay, so now I have this measured here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and hopefully that's going to fit on the other side. All right, so this one should fit here. What is the luck of this one fitting on here? It's so close. I'm going to go away. I'm going to do it. All right. Okay, let's not forget to ink these. Okay, so let's get these all inked up. We'll glue it down. Put glue on it. Bring the borders evenly all the way around. Okay. That's the first one. Ink up this one. Fumble. And before I glue that down, I want a little piece of tape for a magnet bump. Pull off the backing. This is going to once again have a tiny bit more front border than back border. There we go. Yay! Okay, time to put our belly band on. So let's start with the left side. So now we need to get this even. And remember, this is not even. This is even. Take it. Make sure that all of my folds are in the front. Okay? All folds in the front, no folds in the back. Okay? You want to double check before you turn it over. Once again, 3 1/4. Approximately the top of it's at 3 1/4. See? Pinch. Do not let it move. If it moves, you have to move it again. Now, here's a little thing you need to be very, very careful of. These are open, and you do not want to put glue in these openings, okay? So, I'm actually going to use regular glue. And I'm only going to put a little bit right here, okay? And glue this down. And then, I'm going to put a little bit more on the back of this hinge right here, just on this black. Okay, I'm not going any further. Please be careful. If you glue inside here, you're gonna have a problem. So, I put a little bit of glue underneath this, just on this black hinge, and a little bit more just underneath here on this black hinge. Nothing on this green part. Okay, it's really important because it'll go through and you'll have problems, okay? You don't want that. Okay, now go ahead and push that back. We're gonna put score tape on the back of this, so it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna take it this way because I don't want that magnet to wreak havoc. Once again, scores forward. Okay. Measure it so it's right on top of the other one. Now your magnets are going to try to grab each other. That's why I told you. So measure first. Make sure it's straight across. Okay. Pinch. Turn it over. If it moves, mine just moved. Pinch. Now this one you can put glue on, hot glue. You ever have one of those days when your hot glue gun just hates you? Turn it over. Now my other one wasn't settled down yet. Push your pieces back so your spines are flat. And there we go. Cool, huh? Now let's make sure that that's dry and go ahead and put our score tape on the back. I'm going to open this up and open this up while that's drying. I want you to turn to this page that says remember. This page. This is from our stickers. And since we have polka dots, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to put it right over the top of remember. I want you to go ahead and get out one of your Heidi Swap receipt pockets. And so let's take our scissors and carefully cut right down the side. Okay, should release it. Don't tear your plastic, whatever you do. And on the bottom one, I'm going to cut it right off. Cut that right out. I'm going to go ahead and toss this in the garbage. Some of these I may use the backs on them, but this one, I just like this cute little stripe pocket. I want it to go right on here. Now, we're going to put it right along the edge, so go ahead and get your glue out. Now we're only gluing the left side and the bottom. The angle is going this way, so turn it over so you can't see the gold. Glue on the right hand side, and our glue dries clear, so if you don't have clear glue, the other suggestion I have is 1/8 of an inch score tape, and I don't have 1/8 of an inch score tape. I'm going to put this right along the edge, not on the black. I do not have 1/8 of an inch score tape, so I have to deal with my glue, but like I said, it dries clear, so that's going to give us a little pocket. Now, just because these have lines on them doesn't mean that you have to journal on them. They can be, you could put a picture right over the top of them, and the same with this. You can put a picture right over the top of that as well. But this is also an opportunity. You could journal a little here and still stick a little pocket or a tag in here. You could journal on this or put a picture. So in your reserve, you should have this little with love. I just want you to go ahead and cut around it, and then we'll ink the sides, okay? Once you're done inking it, go ahead and put a little glue on the back, and I went ahead and placed it right here on the front. And this page is pretty much done. We might put a little flower or something on our belt, but I want to put it inside first. So on the other side, I went ahead and put my score tape in a frame all the way around, a little extra on this side, one right along the black hinge right here, and not on any of the openings, okay? Short piece, long piece. So go ahead and make sure your score tape is down nice and tight. Take off the backing and get your album out. Same border all the way around. All right. I'm going to lift these up and slowly push over on the left and work my way, or from the right to the left. That page is in. Okay, so I decided to do a little bit of embellishing. I went ahead and got out my Jolie's Pearl and Gem stickers, and it matches the one that we put on the other side, this one. And I put it right here on top of that. I think I'm going to get a couple of your little 1/4-inch flat-back fancy pearls, fancy flat-backs. Get 2 of those out. Your glue, and we're going to glue one on each side of here. Okay, let me zoom in so you can see. So, a couple of little 1/4-inch fancy flat-back pearls. And then, since I'm going to let this dry, I'm going to go ahead and take my silver stickles, and I'm going to run a frame right around this oval. So I'm just going to make it look like it has a silver frame, okay? I don't know if you can see that. So that silver is the width of this little part of the frame. I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry. So I went ahead and added a line of stickles, silver stickles, to match the frame over here on my page 3. Sorry. And then the same little fancy flat-back pearls to the sides of my Dream Big so that it matched the other page. Okay? Now we gotta let this dry, and this is leaning up against my flowers so it won't hurt anything. So I'm gonna put a fan on that and we'll get started on page 5. Alright, so in your paper pack you should find this piece. It's pink. Has little stitches on the sides with little polka dots, and on the other side it looks like this. We're going to go ahead and measure over 6 inches and cut. Alright, so this is what you should have, and I'm going to go ahead and put all the stitches to the right and the top. We're going to turn it this way, so this is the edge we cut. Measure over 8 inches and cut. Alright, so the 2 smaller pieces we are going to put over here in our reserve. And then we're going to start working with one of these pieces. Let's go ahead and pick the one that has the double stitches on it. And go ahead and set this one on the side for now, for page 6. So we're going to be creating a pocket. So let's get out a brand new piece of cardstock because it's going to go lengthwise and we'll need the length of this. Turn it portrait, measure over 6.5 inches and cut. Go ahead and put the smaller piece in your stockpile and just push this aside for right now. And I'd like for you to get out your Heartfelt Creations Delicate Border Basics. And we are using the very first one at the top. So that's this one. Now we need to make sure this is centered when we cut it across, so that when we put it on our pocket, that it goes, when we put it on our page, that it's going to be centered. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and measure a center point on the landscape, which obviously if the page is 11 inches long is going to be 5.5. Okay? And we are going to go ahead and cut this. Now this is some pretty thick paper, but we are going to cut this right off. Try to get that as centered as you can. I'm going to go ahead and turn it sideways because I also need to make sure that my, I'm going to push it right up to the edge, but I'm right between those 2 dots. I'll zoom in just a little bit. So there are 2 dots right here, and I'm trying to keep it as centered as I can, but we also need to make sure that we are centered from here to here, that we're the same distance from here to here and here to here. So that distance, you want to just keep it the same. Now I'm just pushing my ruler right up against the top of it so that I don't measure, and I'm at 3/8 on one side, but I'm not at 3/8 on the other side. So let's go ahead and make sure that I'm at the same point. I'm just pushing my ruler right up against this. And I'm not going to worry about the top because that part's going to get thrown away. So I just want to make sure that I'm taped down and snug so I don't lose my die. Alright, I'm going to go run this through my die cutter and I'll be right back. Alright, I went ahead and released my die, and I'm going to make sure that I clean this out because I'm going to be using it quite a bit in the next couple pages. So again, I'm using my wonderful Spellbinders tool-in-one, and this just takes seconds, and I'm not going to do it all over my desk, but it just takes seconds to clean out these dies. It's amazing. Okay, so go ahead and clean out your die. So we are going to be using this as a pocket, and obviously we need to release it. what we're going to do is we're just going to cut straight across here and here. So you want to, if you want to make a mark, take your ruler, put it right on the edge of where the die ends. So put it right along where the die ends right here, and on the other side, right on the same spot, and that should measure straight, okay? And we're just going to make a line and a line, okay? Can you see? So we can just cut right across that line with our scissors. If you want to use your paper cutter, you go right ahead and release. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this piece now, and what I'd like for you to do is measure over 1 inch and cut. Take this shorter piece and go ahead and put it in your stockpile. And we are going to put this on as a pocket, and I would like for the stitches to be on the right hand side. And get our score tape out and put a piece of score tape right along this edge. Do not go over the edge, just right along. Make sure it's down nice and sturdy. Peel off the back. Go ahead and take your pocket. Make sure it is even so that your little decorative piece is on here evenly. Go ahead and turn it over. Now, me personally, I'm going to go ahead and get my scoreboard out just because this paper is really thick. I'm going to get my scoreboard out now, and I'm going to score right next to the paper where it's going to fold over. So it doesn't matter what number you're on. You just want to score right along the edge. This is just for me. You don't have to do this. If you feel comfortable just folding it over, you go right ahead. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier. Now that's a lot of fold over for a pocket, but this page is going to be pretty simple, so I'm not real worried about that much of a fold over. This is just going to go right on our page 5, okay, when we're done. So now you can take your glue gun and glue, or whatever you use to glue your page, your pockets down. Glue guns are optional. Okay, so in your reserve you should have a large piece of the leather paper that we used on the spine of the cover. And what I want you to do is I want you to measure over 9 inches and cut. Put the smaller piece back in your reserve pile with the other paper. And I'm leaving this here as reference. We're just going to cover the top of our die with the leather paper. So I want you to take this piece and measure, make a little hashtag at 4.5 inches. So put your die, just like we just did, the center point at 4.5 inches. Make sure that it's even from here to here and here to here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this sideways. And we're going to run it through our die cutter. Now we're not keeping the whole back half of this and I'm not putting tape. I don't want you to put tape on the back of your back half of your die. We want to save this piece because we're going to cut this off and use the rest of it for the other page. Okay, so go ahead and run this through your die cutter and come right back. Go ahead and release, and we're going to cut again. This time I'm going to turn it over so you can see my marks. Just makes it easier. I'm going to put my ruler right up against this one and right up against that one, and I'm right up against where it stops, where the die cut stopped, and I'm just going to snip right across those lines just to release the die. Put that in your reserve if you'd like. I didn't put the last one in, but who knows. Alright, so this piece should fit nicely right on top of this one. Now we might need just a tiny bit of black if we'd like to just kind of give it a little 3D effect, and it also looks really nice with our little brown stitches that we left. So I only want to cut, I'm going to turn it over again, it'll make it way easier for you to see. Line it up right up against your die. And we're going to make a line 1 inch. So this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in my reserve. I am going to be using it on my next page. And we are going to glue this just right on the top to give it a leather trim. Okay? So you will need to put quite a bit of glue on all the little curves so that it doesn't get caught when you put stuff in there, okay? So be nice, not overly generous, but be generous along your edges. Setting it on top, lining it up. Now, you might want to put something inside your pocket so that it doesn't glue down. In case the glue seeps over, you don't want it gluing your pocket down. Once you get that on, I'm going to leave that in there. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to fold this little flap over and attach it. And I'm going to turn it over and fold up the other one. We're going to cover this with our pretty paper, so I'm just throwing a little glue in there to attach that. Okay? Okay, so we're going to let this dry for just a second. So just kind of set it over to the side. In your paper pad, I want you to locate this page. It's got some text, some typing, and this really pretty floral print here. And on the other side, it looks like this on the other side. Okay, and that's on this side. So I want you to take and measure over 5 inches and cut. Okay, so put the larger piece in your reserve, and we are going to cut this piece to fit. I am going to be using this bottom half. I'm going to turn this way. I'm using this bottom half, and I'm going to measure this on here like this, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch border on the right and the left. And then I'm going to put a little mark up here so that it's a 1/16 of an inch from the black edge this way. Sorry. Okay, so I'm measuring a 1/16 of an inch down here, a 1/16 of an inch on the left, and then I'm measuring down a 1/16 of an inch so that I have a 1/16 of an inch up here and making a little mark. And I'm just going to cut right along that little mark that I just made. This is what I cut off. This is going to go in my reserve. And I'm going to take this piece and I want to cut this angle. The easiest way to do that is we're going to go get our die. So on this page at 3 15/16, make a mark. Okay? We're going to take this, the bottom of this die, and I'm just going to use it as a placement for me to make a curve and just cut along it. So evenly. So you have the same space in these little, see how there's a little bit of paper in here at the top of my fingers? Make sure that that's exactly the same on both sides. Make sure you have the same distance on both ends. Okay, I'm just going to turn it so I can actually make a pencil mark. And I'm going to make a pencil mark. Okay, so I have a little pencil curve, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut right along that curve. Now I'm going to go straight over to where my pencil line ends for now, and I can always cut off a little bit more later, but I'm just going to carefully cut right along that curve. Remember I told you before, if you ever cut something and it's not the way you want it, you can always put embellishments over it. I'm going to take the little piece that I cut off and I'm just going to throw this away. Set my die aside because I'm going to be using it again very soon. And this should sit right up underneath it here. I'm going to take it down just a tiny bit. I just need to measure the back so I can cut it off. I'm going to measure so that I have a 1/16 of an inch right here from here to here. I'm taking off and I'm going to slice off the back of this and I'll be right back. So I cut off this little strip and I'm going to put it over in my reserve. And I'm not gluing this down just yet. Okay, let's make sure it fits. All right, I'm going to go ahead and glue this down, making sure that I have a 1/16 of an inch from the back and the top and the bottom. And I have a different distance on my leather, and that's okay, because as long as this matches and this matches, I like that beautiful leather die cut showing, okay? Now, and look at me, I forgot to do my color box pigments, so that's what you get. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my pigments, and I'm just going to, once again, I'm just going to go along the edges. And since I have black and brown, this shouldn't hurt it. And if you want to, you can always go the opposite direction. If you actually come upwards towards you when you're doing it, it won't get so much on the paper. Sorry, I forgot. I told you guys to yell at me. Get out your Heidi Swapp receipt pockets, and in the pocket, I want you to get this one out. It's the black one with the white flower that says "Love This." And we are going to place it right here in the bottom left. And I am not going to leave the 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to blend it right into the black. Now this does have some sticky on the back of it, but I want to put some score tape as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the sticky that's on the back. And then I'm going to place some score tape as well, right along the edge. And I'm going to go as close to the edge as I can without going over on both sides. And since the sticky that came with it doesn't go all the way across the top, I'm going to, at least not on mine it's not, I'm going to add a little bit more because that part is going to take the most abuse. Make sure your score tape's down nice and tight and pull off the backing. Bring your pocket over, make sure that the opening is on your right. Place this right along the edge, the bottom and the right, or the left, I'm sorry, the bottom and the left. I like these pockets, I think they're really pretty. All right, I'm going to embellish this later. Turn this over and put our score tape on the back. And this is just going to have a frame with one down and then one down the center and a short one on each side, okay? At some point when we get a little further down the line, I won't be score taping with you anymore or taking off the score tape because you'll know how to do all of that, okay? You're going to be old pros. Short. Make sure your score tape's on nice and snug. Get out your album and we'll place this page. All right, so I've removed the score tape backing from my page, and now I'm going to just go ahead and place it in, leaving an even amount of border all the way around the edges, so it should be approximately about 1/8 of an inch. And make sure it's down nice and secure. Let's move on to page 6. So for page 6, I would like for you to get out a new piece of cardstock. And we're going to need to do some scoring and cutting. So go ahead and get your scoreboard out and we'll be right back. We're going to create kind of a pocket out of this. So what I'd like for you to do is go on the landscape and score at 5 inches. Okay? And I just want you to turn it. Okay? And I want you to score at 1/4 inch and 8 1/4. And I want to go ahead and fold this if you want to, right on the middle score. We're going to cut off this 1/4 inch and this 1/4 inch up to the fold. Now that is on the 6 inch side, because this was 11 by 8.5. So on the wider side, I want you to cut off that 1/4 inch at the top where the score is, and the same with this side, not on this side, okay? Be right back. So these are what I cut off. One came from here and one came from here. So as you can see, I still have a 1/4 inch popping off here and a 1/4 inch, and those scores are still there. So it's a little bit 1/4 inch on both sides. I'm just going to throw these in the garbage. Then I want you to go ahead and fold. This is folded. This is the 5 inch side, 6 inch side. Still has a fold these in and up. Make sure they're very snug. A little 1/4 inch score on both sides, okay? So now what you're going to do is we're going to go into your paper pad, and I use every inch. This is the back of your paper pad that we tore off earlier, and it has these beautiful borders on both sides. I would like to have this border with the flowers. So go ahead and cut it all the way over, the whole thing, right up to this white area. I want you to cut off this whole piece. I'll be right back. All right, so this is the bit I cut off, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in my reserve because we can use this other piece later on, okay? Now we are going to measure this, and the flowers are going to be right side up. So I'm going to take, and I have the Hallmark pattern at the top with the rose, and I'm going to just measure this exactly. I'm not leaving a border. Sorry, so just measure over 8 inches and cut. This is what you should have, putting this small piece in my reserve, and I'm just going to glue this piece on here right up against the edges, okay? No border. Now I'm going to take my pigments, and once again, I didn't do my... You would think I'd learn my lesson, wouldn't you? But since there is absolutely no border on this, this is going to make it nice and easy. So mind you only have to do the outside, top, and bottom. So now what you're going to do is you're going to make this into a pocket. So take those 2 1/4 inch pieces. Turn it over and make sure they're on the outside. This is folded together. This is going to hold this pocket together, okay? This might bow up a little bit on you, but it's okay. So let's get these glued down. Now this is the back of the part that's going to be attached to our page, so we will be able to put over a little bit of score tape over the top of these, and it'll help. Now you have a nice deep pocket, and I know you're like, why didn't I make it the other way? But I didn't want to pick a piece of paper and waste the whole piece of paper underneath of here to put a pocket over it. So this just made more sense to me. I'm going to set this aside for just a moment, and I want you to get out a new piece of cardstock and measure over 5 inches and cut. Put the larger piece in your stockpile, and then I want you to turn it and measure 8 inches and cut. Put the small piece in your stockpile, turn it this way, get out your same Heartfelt Creations die that we just had, measure at 4 inches, lay the die on exactly the same way that we did before so that it is centered and the same distance apart on both sides. Do the same thing we did before. Run this through your die, and we'll be right back. Go ahead and release. We're going to be using this again, so go ahead and clean it out and snip straight across to release the top half of the die. And I'm going to throw that piece away. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and get out your scoreboard with your die cut on the left, and I want you to measure at 3/4 inch and score. Fold on the left-hand side. Now, you can go ahead and pull it back out if you'd like for a minute. We're going to put the same leather on here. So this should be 8 inches. So go ahead and measure 8 inches and cut. Okay, so go ahead and put the small piece in your reserve. This should measure the same distance, okay? And it's not going to be able to fold over, so we're just going to go ahead and put it right on top. So we're running the die exactly the same, okay guys? All we're going to do is run it right along the edge of the center. So measure at 4, run your die up, tape it down along the top, and run it through your die. Go ahead and release, clean it out, save it for later. Take your scissors. Now, if you want to get it exact where you cut it before, this is my suggestion. Lay your black one right on top of your brown one that you just made. Take your pencil and put a pencil mark. And it will measure perfectly, because we're not going to be folding this one over. So just make the pencil marks and snip right along your pencil lines. Okay, I'm going to throw this piece away. Okay, I'm going to measure 3 inches from the left-hand side with the die cut on the right and cut. This is what you should have. Put this piece in your reserve, and we're going to go ahead and glue this right on top, just like we did before, making sure that you get all of your little curls. It's ready. Put it right on the top of the other one. Line them up. Let that dry for a second. Okay, so fold is down, leather on top. Just want to make sure that this fits on there. It should fit on there evenly. We are going to attach this to the back. So I want to place my magnets now on my left-hand side. So the first thing you're going to do is we're just, going to take it, turn it over, flap on the right, pointing up, get your magnets out. Might as well get 4 of them out right now. Set the other 2 aside for a moment. So the first magnet is going to be right there. And I'm going to take a very small piece of score tape. First piece is just going to go right on there. Just going to place it right about there, just underneath the hump. Get its mate. Put it right on top. Take another tiny piece of score tape. Put it on the back of its mate. Take the score tape backing off. Okay. Score tape backing off. Take this piece, do not push down. Get it evenly up against here. Don't push it down yet. Make sure that it's even on both sides. This side and this side, okay? Push it right up against. Now, tap. There you go. Now you can put another piece of score tape over the tops of those to make sure they stay down. Now we can cover this in paper. In your reserve, you should have this piece. We used it earlier, and it looks like this on one side and this on the other. We're going to go ahead and use this and measure it. I think I'm going to use this top corner here. I'm going to go ahead and measure it to fit with the 1/16 of an inch border all the way around and trim it down. I'm going to cut this large piece off first and then this piece. This is the two pieces that I cut off. I'm going to go ahead and set these aside for a moment. This piece should fit on here with a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and get that ready to glue down. Just in case you notice there happens to be some words right down here, I am going to make sure that this is not upside down, excuse me, so that those are legible. And I'm also going to go ahead and take off the back of my score tape on my magnet for one less thing to be in the way. Place this down evenly all the way around. Let's go ahead and set that aside for a moment. And let's get this piece out. Go ahead and get out this small piece that we set aside just a moment ago that we just cut off the piece we just had. And we're going to go ahead and use our die cut again. I'm going to make a measurement exactly at 4 inches. And this is a little, I'm sorry, this is a little shy. So this is 7 7/8. So at 3 15/16 is about the center of this. Measure it as close to the top as I can. Doing exactly the same thing we did before. And we're just going to cut right along that pencil mark. Probably never heard me this quiet. I'm going to go ahead and throw that away, this little piece that I cut off. Make sure it fits up underneath of there. I'm going to have about a 1/16 of an inch border on both sides. Now I know there's going to be a big black space. You see the big black space on the left? We are going to go and get the other back of our paper pad. Same thing we cut off a little bit ago. Remember how we cut this off? That is the same piece that we're going to put along the back of this. So we're going to pull this back just a little bit until this fits on it, okay? So before you glue this down, get this out of your paper pad. This is the back of it. It's just white on the other side. And cut that same side off that has the rose. Be right back. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put this in your reserve. We can use the other strip for another part of our piece. So measure so that you have a 1/16 of an inch border. I'm going to fold the fold under so you don't get confused. The fold is folded under here, okay? We aren't going to go on that. So you're going to go a 1/16 of an inch from the top and the back. Make a little mark, 1/16 of an inch in this way from your edge, and go ahead and cut that end off. Put your smaller piece in your reserve. This piece should fit. Okay, so now you take this one and it's going to go under it. But you want to make sure that you glue it this other one. So I need to trim off a tiny bit. Here, let me show you. See how mine's a little bit extended right there? So I just need to trim off a little bit. Like a smidgen. I'll be right back. Put this one down. Okay, right where it's going to be with your 1/16 of an inch border, and make a line right along the right of it. Take this one, and when you glue it down, make sure you go just to the left of the line, literally, okay? So get your glue on the back, all right? So you're going to place it just to the left of the line. Okay, let me zoom out. So this edge is just barely to the left of that line that I placed. Now I know we have a little bit of brown showing on the edges, but I'm okay with that. This one, I'm also going to put some glue on it, and our left edge is going to match our right edge. Put this right on top, 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So you should have this piece set aside for the back of page 6, but since we didn't actually use a backing on page 6, we made this whole pocket thing. We're going to use this to cover the back of this piece, and we're going to have to do the same with the little curve. Let's measure over 3.5 inches with this little stitch to the left and cut. Okay, we're going to put the smaller piece in your reserve. Take this piece and measure the center of it. You're going to do the same thing we've been doing all along. You're just going to cut using your die right along the top with using your measuring method for the arc. We just want to tuck it up underneath just like we did before. We are going to be cutting a small piece off the end. This is going to have a little black border on both sides. This should be second nature to you now. I'm going to throw this piece away. Now mine was a little off, so I'm actually going to push it. I have my black border over here because mine was just a tad bit off the center. I'm going to go ahead and measure the same black border on this side and cut it off. If yours is center, cut a little bit off both sides. So I cut that little teeny piece off of one side. I'm just going to throw that away. And then I'm going to be measuring this now. I'm going to tuck it up as close as I can to my top. And I'm going to need to cut off a small piece along the back so that it's not going over this. Just a tiny, tiny bit is going to get cut off. I got to take off about 1/16 of an inch along the back. So I'm going to go slice a tiny bit off the back of this so it doesn't go over my fold. I'm going to cut that little teeny piece. It was so tiny I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to ink the sides of this so I don't forget. Look, I remembered. Go ahead and ink yours. Done inking all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Same border all the way around. Do not go over your fold. I did take the score tape backing off of my magnet so that it doesn't give me magnet bump. And go ahead and get out your first page. Okay. And this is going to attach even here, even here. Push it all the way up against the back. Pinch. Turn it over and glue the flap down. So, magnet should hold it. Okay, so go ahead and get out a new piece of cardstock, and I would like you to turn it this direction and measure over 7/7/8 and cut. Take the long skinny piece that you just cut off and go ahead and put it in your stockpile. Now I want you to go ahead and get out your beautiful little die again. And once again, we're going to measure it to put it right on the top of the portrait. So go ahead and measure to the center. Make sure you have the same distance from here to here to here to here, just in case you were off. Make sure you have the same distance from the top of each arch. Okay, be right back. Go ahead and release. Get your scissors. Cut straight across on the left and the right to release your die. I'm going to go ahead and throw this away, and we're going to score. So let's get our scoreboard out. Okay, obviously we cannot push this up against the edge. So 1/6 and 1/8, I want you to go ahead and score. 1/6 and 1/8. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fold it and make sure that score is nice, and make sure that you use your bone folder or whatever it is that you use. Make sure that that score is nice and tight. Okay, so we can go ahead and open this, and I want you to go ahead and measure over 1 3/4. Put a little pencil mark, and we're going to cut that part off. We're just going to measure over 1 3/4 and cut this off so that it's pretty even. It's not going to be even exactly with that piece, but it's going to be really close. Okay? Take this smaller piece that you just cut off and go ahead and put that in your stockpile. Okay, this is what you should have. You can go ahead and open it now. And we're going to go ahead and cover this up with paper. Alright, so let's start by putting our magnet on. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a little teeny piece of score tape on the back of the first one. And get the score tape backing off. I'm going to put it in, I'm putting it in pretty far, okay, from the edge. Go ahead and find its mate. Get another little teeny piece of score tape. And I'm not taking it off just yet. I'm gonna leave it on there just for a second. Go ahead and get out your original piece. Remember the great big pocket that we made? I want you to take this, place it into the pocket right up to the edge, okay? Now, make sure that when you line this up, that you line it right up against the black on this side. It's gonna be really close, okay? It might not cover exactly, but it's really, really, really close. All right, just like that. But go ahead and make sure that that's up against the edge. Take the magnet, score tape backing off of this magnet. Kick it over and push it down. We have this little magnet sitting out here. Go ahead and pull this out. Set it aside for just a second. And on your sticker pad, your Heidi Swap sticker pad, I want you to get the one out that has a little gold heart. And I'm going to take my scissors and round my edges because I don't want it to be square. I'm just going to round my corners with my scissors. Okay? Just going to manually round my corners. I just don't want the square. I'm going to put it right over my magnet. I'm going to put a little bit of glue just for extra strength underneath the edges to make sure it stays down. So I just put a little extra glue underneath. I'm going to hold it down for just a second. So we'll go ahead and let that dry. And I want you to go into your Heidi Swap journal pad and get out the piece that's peach with the grid. In your reserve, I want you to locate this long skinny strip that looks like this on one side and this on the other, and this little skinny piece that's about the same width as this piece of paper. Okay, looks like this on one side and this on the other. Okay, go ahead and cut this off and I'll be right back. So we are going to place this in the bottom right corner, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. We're going to measure this to fit on there, and we're going to measure this to fit at the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this piece down, bottom right corner. And I'm getting glue everywhere. 1/16 of an inch-ish. And it doesn't matter that I got glue up there because I'm going to glue this piece down next, right above the top of it, right up to the right-hand side, leaving the same border at the top that I did at the bottom. Take this piece, butt it right up against the left-hand side. I'm going to measure it, and I'm going to cut that little piece off the bottom so that it's flush with the bottom. And I didn't keep that little teeny piece. I'm going to glue this right down along the edge, leaving the same border. In your reserve, you should have this. Looks like this on one side and this on the other. And this is the top we cut off of the backs that we were using. And a little piece that looks like this, and this is the one that had the circle that we cut out for our zip tie. Or was it? No, I think this is actually the one we used on our spine. Anyway, we're going to use this little piece right here. Okay, so get your ink out. And yes, once again, I inked this and forgot after the fact. Okay, and then in your receipt pockets, I'd like you to pull this one out. It has the little gold polka dots. So we are not going to worry about this edge, okay? We are going to just go ahead and cut this to butt up as close to it as possible. So what I want you to do is I want you to take it, and the lowest point is one of these dots. So there's little dots in here. I want this to go 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and I'm going to bring it down till I see the lowest dot, which is 1, 2, 3. I'm going to measure this right below it. So this is the lowest point of the die, this little dot right here, okay? And I'm taking my pencil and I'm measuring it just below it, so you can see there. So if I cut this off, it's not going to show through on the other side. of the die. So go ahead and just slice that little edge right off. Okay, so now you should be able to put this right up against the edge, same distance as you did on the other side. So same distance here, and you won't go over this die. Okay, we're going to place this little pocket right along the edge of it, and then we're just going to take this tiny little piece and we're going to trim out to fit on the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue this piece down. Oop, ink first, ink first, ink first. Just when you think you're getting better at this, I keep telling you guys, somebody needs to make me a neon sign. Stitches in the top left, right over your magnet. And check on your other one and make sure it's dry. Alright, so I'm going to measure this. I'm putting my pocket down, keeping it flush here, same distance down here. I'm just going to make a little line just to see where it's at. And it looks like it's going to cover it. I'm going to put this little piece with the little, got a little, okay, you can see the little zigzag down at the bottom. I'm meshing it with the bottom of the, and I'm going to cut it off right at the top of the pocket. Okay, I'm going to ink down to put that little teeny piece in my reserve just in case. I'm going to ink down the right hand side, and this is not going to be easy. And across the bottom. I'm going to add this before the pocket, okay? Glue. Right. So our border matches. Okay. See how that matches? I'm going to cut right along the pocket. Right like that. I'm right along the plastic so that it goes right along the edge of it. And it doesn't look so awkward. I'm going to pull off this little 3M thing and add more score tape. Make sure my score tape's down nice and snug. Take the backing off. Place this right along the edge. Same distance. Be careful not to put the right side down till you have the left side down measured. And there we go. So that's our inside. And once again, once we get something in the pocket, that black isn't going to show up as much. See? See how cute that is? And we'll be measuring, I'll be measuring little tags that'll fit perfectly inside these pockets. So you'll only see a tiny black border and just a polka dots. Okay, in your reserve, you should still have another piece of the leather. Should be the right size. We're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to open this for now. We're going to just run our die. So we're going to measure the center point of our piece of leather, which is going to be 4. I want you to do the same thing we've been doing the whole time. I just want you to cut this out of this little piece of leather. Run that through your die cutter and come back. Go ahead and release it. Straight across. Straight across. You can put this in your reserve. Measure it. Make sure it fits on there. If you have any extra brown to cut off along the edges, go ahead and get it cut off. I am, however, going to go a 1/16 of an inch from the edge on this one with the brown. And if you want to, you know, you can use the other side to measure with. It's exactly the same, but it sure makes it a lot easier to see when you make marks. So I'm leaving a little 1/16 of an inch on both sides of my paper. I'll be right back. This is what I cut off. No, I'm not keeping it. I'm going to glue this all the way down and leave the rest of this brown, okay? I'm just worried about the little edges. I'm going to go all the way down. Put it right down. This came out of our reserve. And instead of having just a straight line on here, I'm going to go ahead and cut the curve that matches this out of this so that it just kind of curves along the edge. Okay? Same thing, guys. Measure the center. Don't worry that it's too long right now. We're going to cut the ends off after we do the curl, because if we don't and we mess it up, we will not be able to fix it if we cut it first. Get it in the center. Measure it from end to end. Make your little line. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Now, to be safe, I'm just going to go straight across and then into my curves where I didn't have a pencil line. I'm going to throw this away. We are going to place this and measure, and we are going to have a little bit left over back here, but I'm going to use another one of those pieces to make up the difference, okay? Get this measured so that it's the same distance in the back, the excess so that the borders match, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ink this piece. I'm going to put the border on still. Alright, so don't glue this down yet, but just measure it to make sure it fits. And for reserve, I want you to get this piece out. This was the other side that we cut the trim off, and cut this trim piece off. Okay, this is what you should have cut off. And at this point, I don't think there's really much we can do with this, but if you're welcome to keep it if you like to use the white side for something. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this away now. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and measure this piece to the length of this one. Put your little mark, cut that off. Go ahead and put this piece, this is the piece that had the little ink mark, so I'm going to put that in my reserve. And I'm going to turn it after I ink it. And if you have any of these little plastic pieces from the spine, go ahead and get that off. I'm going to go ahead and ink this piece. And I am going to ink it all the way around because I want it to look like it has rough edges, even on the part that's going to be up against here. I think it might make it flow a little better. We're going to go ahead and glue this piece down, and I'm going to make sure that this covers here, so I'm going to get it as close as I can. So I've got about 1/4 of an inch at the base of this, and then this one I'm going to only put glue on the side, and the bottom, and I'm going to put a very thin piece of glue, so it's actually going to create kind of a little pocket. So don't go crazy on the glue on the bottom, and when you lay it down, try to lay it down so that you are just tapping it so it doesn't spread. So it's got kind of a little pocket. Well, it does have a pocket. So I put some stickles on the butterfly earlier and let it dry. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this butterfly right here. And I realize that this has a large piece of I'm sorry, leather, but once you put a card in here, it will cover up most of this. So let's go ahead and put our score tape on the back. Score taped it with the frame, long one down the center and some longer pieces on each side. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's down nice and tight. Take the backing off, and let's get our album out. Make sure that your opening for your piece that we just made and placed in the pocket goes on the opening like this. Put it in with the same border all the way around. Go ahead and press it down. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. I had this piece, it was like this, so you can see that it will just fit right in the pocket. And once it's in there, that black doesn't show up any nearly as bad. You see that? So I think that's really nice. And you can put a picture on that. So we're ready to move on. I'm going to put these little pieces that I cut off of that into my my reserve pile. Ready to move on to page 7. So we are ready to start page 7 and 8. In your paper pad, I would like you to locate this piece. It's green with some polka dots on the side and some little text. And on the other side, it's blue with the little, looks like stitching along the sides in polka dots. Okay, we're going to go ahead and measure over 6 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and lay them on top of each other. The writing is facing you. Turn clockwise. Measure over 8 inches and cut. These two pieces are going to go ahead and go into your reserve. And these are the two backs. Go ahead and just set these aside for a moment. I'd like for you to get out a new piece of cardstock. Go ahead and measure over 5.5 inches and cut. You should have this split straight in half. We are going to be working on pages 7 and 8 together, okay? So get out your floor border basics, and inside you're going to get your two, this one and this one, okay? So we are going to cut these out of these two pieces of cardstock. But we need to make sure that they're centered. So go ahead and set them up here. Get your ruler out. Now our page is 6 inches across. So each one of these is 8.5. So with your ruler, I would like you to measure over to 1 1/4 and make a hashtag, and to 7 1/4 and make a hashtag. Same with the other one. Measure over 1 1/4, make a pencil mark, and at 7 1/4, make a pencil mark. We need to cut these so that they go within those marks. So I'm actually going to go ahead and make a line all the way down so I have something to guide with. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just measuring in 1 1/4 on both sides. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm actually going to make a line all the way down, 1 1/4 inches from both sides. I am going to do this on both pieces. Take both pieces, measure in 1 1/4, measure in 1 1/4. This is going to make it easier so that we make sure that our die cut is going to go the right direction. I'm going to take the first die. Now, if you put these on top of each other, you can see that they angle differently. See this? See but when you flip them over, they angle differently. So, grab the first one. And your goal, you don't want this to go off the page or you won't have a die. So there's a little notch. See the little notch? Bring this die down till it's right here and put the notch right there. On the other side, bring it down until the notch is on the line. So, notch is on this line, notch is on this line, and we're going to be cutting off the top half so you can put your tape on that. And we're going to line up the other one exactly the same way, going the opposite direction. So, just so you don't get confused, there's the first one. Bring down the second one, opposite direction. Bring it up as close to the edge at the top as you can. Measure up the notches. So these pockets are going to be angled, but each page is going to be angled the opposite direction. You can see what I've got here going, right? So once you die cut these, we're just going to slice off right here, and those will fold under the page. Just go ahead and run them through your die cutter and come right back. Okay, so very carefully release the dies. You don't want to break those delicate little laces. I'm going to knock out all the little extra pieces. So go ahead and release them and get all the little extra pieces out. This is what you should have. Now, if you tore a little bit at the top, it's okay. Take your scissors and just snip straight over to where the die is, right at the edge, and release this. Go ahead and put this in your stockpile. Same with the other one. Just go ahead and go over and snip, straight over and snip, and put that other piece in your stockpile as well, okay? So these are how they're going to go. Put your score tape at the bottom of each of these now. Do not go over the edges on either side. Okay? Make sure your score tape's on nice and snug. Take the backing off. I like working with 2 pages at once. It goes so much faster, especially when they're almost exactly the same. Okay, I need to bend that. When you put this down, you make sure that you are even on both sides and straight at the bottom. It's really important, okay? Because it won't fold over right if you're not. Okay, see how that folds over? Same with the other side. You want to make sure it folds over really nice and neat and makes a nice pocket. It might be a little bowed, but that's okay. Same with this one. And make sure that the angle is going this way on the one with the lettering, and the angle is going the opposite direction on the other one. Fold over on both of them. Now you're going to have some funny little curls from this little side. You can snip them or you can glue them. I'm going to glue mine. Turn them both over and glue them down. Okay, so this is what you should have. And we just need to put the paper on the top. To cover up the fronts of these, we're going to go ahead and go in our paper pad and locate this piece. It's got like handwriting all over the back and then the little cards on the front. And just go ahead and measure over 6 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Now, go ahead and set the one with the more of the pink in it. Go ahead and put that in your reserve. And I want you to take this, turn it sideways, measure 6 inches and cut. So this is what you should have. You're going to use these pieces to cover the fronts of these. In your floor border basics, I want you to locate the 2 pieces that look like this. So they would be the second on each side of these. We're going to use these to trim out these pieces. So this one goes on this side like that, and this one goes on this side like that. We line these pieces up very much the same way we did the last one. Okay, so this has a notch just like the other one did. Push it up as close to the top as you can with the notch up against the edge of the paper. Pull the other one down until the notch matches the edge of the paper and tape it down. Tape on the top only. Hopefully we won't tear it, but just in case we do, we won't be tearing the piece that we're trying to keep. Same with the other one. So match the notch to the top on the right hand side at the very top. Match the left hand notch right at the edge of the page right here. If you look closely, once we run those through, this one will fit right along the edge of here, and this one will fit right along the edge of there, and then we'll just need to trim a little bit off. Okay, run them through your die cutter. So go ahead and release. If you can, keep from tearing it. That would be nice. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Put the 2 pieces that you cut off in your reserve, and then we will go ahead and measure these to fit. Alright, so we need to trim these. I'm going to make a mark to trim off a 1/16 of an inch on the right and the left on both of these. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure that my little trim is right up against the black below this trim. So that's where I'm going to mark it. So then I want to leave a 1/16 of an inch at the bottom. So I'm just slightly moving it over and making a little pencil mark right there where I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to do the same with the other one. Okay, so the easy way to do that is to just go ahead and take them, lay them right on top of each other. Okay, so that they're flush at the bottom. Slightly move it over and make your little mark. So you are going to cut the exact same distance off the bottom of both of these so they match. Go ahead and trim these up and then we'll ink them. Alright, so these are the larger pieces I cut off, those tiny little 1/16 of an inch pieces curled up and flew off my cutter like that. So let's go ahead and ink these. I'm going to go ahead and ink them and I'll be back. Alright, so we are ready to glue these on. Alright, so I'm going to place my first one down, 1/16 of an inch, away from the edges. And pretty. Alright, I'm going to glue this one down. Pretty. And I remembered to ink All right, so go ahead and set these aside for a moment. And I'm going to actually explain what we're going to do next, only because I think it might make it a little bit easier. In the album, you don't see how we actually put things together, and that's why you're doing it with us. So I need you to get a new piece of cardstock. We are going to have 2 of these, but let's just start with 1 for right now. And we're going to be creating this, and this is that fold out that goes on top of the page. So we need to cut it, and then we're going to create a continuous die out of the floor border, and we're using the second one for each side. Okay, so have these out and ready. So take your first piece of cardstock at the landscape, measure over 6.5 inches, and cut. And actually what I want you to go ahead and do is go ahead and get the second piece, and we'll cut it for now and then just set it aside. So this is what we got on the first one. Take the second piece and do the same thing. Cut 6.5, measure over 6.5 inches and cut. Okay, both pieces. So you cut the 2 pieces. These are the 2 6.5. These 2 pieces go in your reserve. I'm sorry, in your stockpile, and that stock, this is what you should have. We'll go ahead and do these simultaneously. Go ahead and get your ruler out. And I would like for you to go to the bottom of each page. On the left-hand side, you're going to measure over at 6 inches. And on the right-hand one, you're going to measure in 1/2 inch. Okay? And make a little mark. So 6 inches, 1/2 inch. Now, this is the part where we need to have a place to lay our dies down. Take your ruler, top corner, I want you to lay the line that where you would draw against, right at the corner, okay? Here, let me zoom in. I'm going to set this one aside for just a second. So your ruler is going to go right up against the corner, and at the bottom it's going to be touching the line you just made at the 6 inch mark. I want you to draw a line right down. On the other one, you're going to do it the opposite direction. Put your ruler right up against the line, and right at the top right corner, and draw a line. So they're going opposite directions for a reason. Okay, so we are going to get out the floor border basics like I told you. Make sure that you have the one that's on the left curves like you're skiing, the one on the right curves like you're skiing. Now, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to zoom in again. I'm just putting one of them where you can see. This is the right hand side. Take the die, set it right up against the corner. The little notch is touching the line. Go down, run down your line, and the second notch is touching the line right here. Okay, that's the right hand side. Same with the left hand side. Top notch, right in the corner, touching the line. Take it down. Bottom notch right there is touching the line. You're going to tape these down, run them through the die cutter, and come back. Well, I hope you'll come back. Okay, hang on. All right, so I'm going to release the die. Now, obviously, this doesn't go all the way down, so we have to continue by placing it towards the bottom and making it go all the way. So if it didn't release at the top, don't worry about it. Okay, go clean out your dies. I'll be right back. Take your die that you used, this first one right here, place it right on top of the last die cut. Fit it right in there. Okay, make it fit perfectly in the hole, just as if it was still connected. This will continue the natural curve. And I am going to turn it over once I tape it down and make sure. So all taped on, these match up. Go ahead and run them through the die cutter. Okay, so go ahead and lift it off. Mine is not letting go at the top, but that's okay. We're going to snip that in just a second. So I'm going to take your scissors and carefully just snip off the top. We are going to be cutting off a little bit of the top, so it's okay. Snip it, release it, and go ahead and put these in your stockpile, because we could probably make a card out of that. I'm going to take a pencil And even though it's not going to show, because we'll cover these with paper, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of those little pencil marks that we made. I'm taking the right page right now. This would be page 8. I'm lining it up flush with the bottom. Okay. Do not let this extend off the edge over here. Push it to the end. Push this flower right to the edge. This will extend over a little bit. We'll turn it over. And I'm going to make a line right here where this extends. And at the top, right here where this extends, I would like for you to make a mark. And we're going to cut this off. So we're just going to cut that right off. Now, same with the other one. I'll set this one aside, right to the bottom. Flower in the corner, flush, pinch, turn it over, make a little line, make a line where we're going to cut off this top piece. Okay. Now, we are not going to cut this off. We're actually going to score this, but I want you to cut off this one and this one right now. Now I'm just going to use my scissors very carefully, and I don't want to cut this flower, so I'm just going to snip this first flower right off. Okay? You see what I cut off. Same with this one. I'm going to snip this first flower right off. So I'm going to just set the pages aside for just a moment. So we're going to score right along this mark, and we're going to score right along this mark, and then we're going to just add a little piece for us to use as a hinge. So let's get our scoreboard out. Taking the left one first, right at 1/4 inch, and so is this one. So, see? So I'm just going to score in 1/4 inch, but I'm going to turn it over so that it's butted up against here and score at 1/4 inch. Okay? So, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Make sure that you have the correct side. You will know the difference. This is embossed up. If you turn it over, it is not. So, make sure you have them on the right sides. Take this and fold your 1/4 inch fold back on the left-hand side. Make sure you have them the right direction. Okay, now I just flipped it over and folded it. Take this side, flip it over, and fold it over. So both hinges are actually in the back and facing down. And these are really hard to do on this really thick paper. Hinge down, hinge down. In your reserve, you should find a piece of cardstock. It is a little under, it's like 7 3/4 by 1 3/4. We're going to slice this in half. So 2 strips cut in half. Bring these back, turn them over so the hinges are pointing up. Okay, get your score tape out and run 1 piece of 1/4 inch score tape right along this hinge. On the left pretty part, we're just doing the hinge, okay? Should fit. 1/4 inch score tape should fit right along that hinge. One on both hinges, and the hinge is pointing up. Okay, make sure it's down nice and snug. Just set these aside for just a second. Take the score tape backing off. Take one of your pieces and taking it towards the bottom. This is the large bottom part. I'm laying it right next to the fold. That's going to be our fold, right on the score tape. You're just extending the hinge so that we can attach it to the back of our page. Make sure it's on there nice. Oops, sorry about all the noise. Make sure it's on there nice and snug. Same with this one. If it makes it easier, you can set it down this way. Push it right up against the fold. Bring your hinge up a little bit. This works too. Flush at the bottom. See that? Push it right up against your fold. And bring your hinge over, and you could do it that way. Okay? Whatever works. Make sure it's down nice and snug. Now we have bigger hinges that we can connect to the back. In your paper pad, you're looking for this piece. We used it on the cover of our album. It's got this beautiful brown and cream filigree on one side, and it's kind of a green. And then on the other side it's pink with some roses. We're going to take it. Okay, anyway, we're going to take it like this. We're going to measure over 7 7/8 and cut. So measure over 7 7/8 and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put this piece in your reserve. And we're going to turn this way. And you're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. Go ahead and this piece goes with the left-hand side, and this piece goes with the right-hand side. Okay, so we need to cut an angle out of both of these. In your floor borders, you have singular cutters. Okay, they look like little single lines. We're going to use those to cut out the curves. We need to figure out where to lay our die, and the best way I can think of is to take a pencil and right inside the bottom of each of these little, I'm going to call them flowers, I'm putting a pencil line. So we know we have to follow along the curve all the way down, right? See my little dotted pencil line? And actually make a solid line using the bottom of this as my guide. I don't know about you, but I find it easier to have a solid line to work with. So I'm placing this right along the dotted line that I just made, so it matches it. Making a line. And then remember, we followed it. We had an overlap. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and do that to the other side. Place this one together so it goes with that one. Same thing with this side. Fold under my hinge, push it back just as if it was attached. Make my lines right at the bottom of each of my little. I couldn't think of an easier way to do this. Set this aside. Use the bottom of my curve. Continue it. Alright. So I'm lining the pencil line that I made along the right hand side of this. Let me get my tape out. But don't put your tape on this side, because then you may end up ripping the paper that was going on the actual piece. And then we'll have to continue it the same way we did before. Run this one along. We're going to run those through the die, come back, and then we'll continue on and do the other one. Carefully release. It should be cut, hopefully very close to along that line. Now I'm just to the left of it. I'm going to take this one, same way we did before. I'm going to find the line. It should sit in it. So what I'm trying to do is catch the end of what I cut, making sure that my pencil mark is following the rest of my thing that I need to cut open. Okay, so as I'm catching the actual cut that I already made, but I'm also having to move this up significantly in order to run it along the edge. So that should do it. So I caught the die in the part that's already cut, moved it until I was running along the edge of my pencil marks. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run those through and I'll be right back. Alright, so they let themselves go. Trying to be so careful because I know I want to use these pages. That's what you should have. So these two pieces that we cut off, they can go in your reserve for later. Okay, so I've got my hinge folded back and my pieces on here. I'm going to make sure that I have about, I'm probably closer to 1/8 of an inch away from the bottom of the base of this. And I'm going to go ahead and trim the rest of my borders to match. So I'm going to make my little mark here to cut this off at the top. Make sure that my back also has a little bit of a border to match. Make the appropriate trim marks and we'll go ahead and cut those off. Making sure everything's nice and even. trim. And trim. Go ahead and cut those off. Make sure that you have them measured on properly before you get inking. Everything is the way I want it. We'll go ahead and ink these and get them put on. It's time to ink and then glue it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and ink these up and we'll glue them down too. I don't think you need to watch me do that, okay? Once you're done inking these, do not glue them down. So we are going to cover it with this piece. In your paper pad, I want you to locate this. The easiest way to find it is it has a whole bunch of cute little greetings on the back, and on the front it looks like this. We are going to use these as templates. And I kind of like this crazy little stuff at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and set this one right on the edge, and we'll butt this one right up against it on the right hand side. Less cutting is just go ahead and make a little mark right at the top, and we'll cut straight across here from that little mark that we made. So this is the height of the back piece. Cut right across your line. This is what you should have. Go ahead and keep this and set it aside for right now. We're just going to use these as templates. I'm just taking each one, pushing it right up against the side. Make sure it's flush with the bottom and the side. So I'm just going to cut right along that line. This goes in your reserve. These should match up. Get out your pieces. So this is the front, this is the back, this is the front, and this is the back. Go ahead and ink these pieces up, the new ones we just cut, and we'll get ready to glue some of them down. Don't glue anything down until you've inked them up, and we'll glue them together. I'm just going to set the two pieces that I inked aside for a moment. Turn these back over. Make sure they are on the correct sides. Hinge down, left-hand side. Go ahead and glue these down. Make sure that your border is even all the way around. Same with this one. Turn them over. This one goes to this one, okay? So I'm going to glue the right-hand side one together. With the left-hand one, we're going to add a cute little pocket. Glue page 8 inside down. So hinge on the left is up. This piece goes here, it matches. I went ahead and got out one of my little pockets. This is the last one with the polka dots. Page 7 has the cutest little polka dots already on the background, and this is the hinged piece. I'm on the inside. I haven't glued it down yet. I'm going to go ahead and cut down, first of all. I'm going to cut it open so that the polka dots show through. So I'm just going to cut down. I'm on the left-hand side. I'm going to cut down just a 1/16 of an inch to release the pocket so that it's open. So I'm going to show you on the bottom, just before this is attached, there's about a 1/16 of an inch on the all the way around. I'm going to cut that little 1/16 of an inch off. I'm not releasing the pocket, and if you do, you can always glue it back. Okay, so I'm just cutting off a little 1/16 of an inch that's protruding on the bottom and the left. So my pocket's still attached. And if I put this in, it's going to go very close to the bottom with a tiny little border all the way around, like a 1/16 of an inch border. Push it into your corner for just a moment. This is not glued on, okay guys? I just want to get rid of this little black piece. I'm going to follow just below these polka dots, and I'm just going to make a pencil line that follows the curve. You can kind of see the indentation of the pencil line. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to cut right along that little indentation, cut that corner off, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this black off here. We now have a nice cute little clear pocket, this on the back, and just glue it to the... So I'm going to go ahead and add some glue to the back of this, just a little bit. It doesn't, mostly just around the edges. Slide this in all the way down, let that glue on.